Well, welcome, ladies, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I'm really excited to be covering this topic with my other co-hosts. And recently, I found myself overwhelmed by noise, not just in the world, but in my head as well, around algorithms and what should we be doing for our businesses. And I realized that actually busyness has become my new normal. Does that sound familiar to any of you?
Very.
Good. So today we want to share a different approach, one that's not about rushing about and reacting, but about reconnecting with ourselves, with our purpose, with our why we're doing this, with our clients and with our businesses. So let me just introduce myself to begin with if you haven't met me before. I'm Ali Meehan. As well as being the founder of Costa Women, I'm actually a business growth coach. I'm soon to be certified future self coach. And I'm also passionate about helping women grow their startups with intention. So we're very excited to have you here. Over the course of the next hour, hour and a half, my colleagues and I, or friends and I, actually more than colleagues, are going to cover these topics. So we're going to Tracy's going to cover meet your match and how your business might not be for everyone, but that's a good thing. Remy is going to cover bringing us from a stranger to a client to navigate the stages of your relationship with your clients to bring them to be potential customers, sorry. Kim is covering her calm approach to marketing, how to attract clients without being online 24/7, which sounds really good to me. Diana's covering rethinking networking. Can we learn to enjoy it? Which is going to be really interesting. And Anella's going to finish up the session with a meditation, rethinking the way that we are doing our businesses, the way we're thinking about where we are now. So from blocks to balance, attracting your right clients with calm and presence. So before we start with the ideas, I'd like you to think about what your intention is for this session and how you want to feel about this session at the end of what we get through today. Do you actually want to learn something new? Do you want to be reminded about something that you have maybe forgotten about? Because there's so much that we need to do as solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, that quite often we forget about things. Um, sorry, can we mute all of the people that aren't hosts? Or can you mute yourself if you're one of the attendees? Thank you. Is it to get clarity, to come up with a plan? Do you want to feel calmer about what you're doing? Do you want to stop feeling so overwhelmed? I'd love it if you'd write in the chat actually how you want to feel at the end of this session and what your intention is, why you joined us. I did send a survey round, and some of you very kindly filled that out. Thank you, to say what you were working on currently, what you have in your ecosystem for your business. But really good to hear from you. Or if you don't want to write it in the chat, just silently whisper to yourself what you want to get out of this and how you want to feel. So, sorry. So, maybe you're obsessed with results and you're looking for an immediate solution, immediate sale, immediate connection, immediate people buying your stuff, immediate answer to what you want to do. And I'd like you to think about something else, because quite often, even though you want these immediate answers, we quite often procrastinate on actually taking any action because it can be very overwhelming what's going on in the world. And maybe you're thinking that you don't actually have time, energy, money. It just all seems too hard, complicated, confusing, overwhelming. Maybe you feel that you're not good at detail. Maybe you don't feel you're good at social media, at sales. And it's actually not a feeling that stops you from getting the response that you want, because procrastination is fear, as I said, and it can actually delay you from moving forward to where you want to be with your business. It's not a feeling that stops you from getting the results that you want. It's actually your response to that feeling. So a little exercise for you to do probably after this session is to actually think about what you've spent your time doing today. Has it been a day where you have got a big project that you want to work on, but actually you found yourself filling the washing machine or doing something that's completely irrelevant to your business? And have you found yourself taking the time of the day when you have most energy? And that's different for all of us. So I don't know when you have the most energy during your day, but I have the most energy in the morning. So I like to do the important work, the work that's going to move my business forward first thing in the morning. But think about what you spend your time doing and when you have the most energy and what you could actually be working on during that time. This in reality is what having a business looks like. So rather than thinking about us having an immediate solution, I want you to think about how it is actually in the learning, in all this messy stuff, in the journey that we create these stories that connect with our clients. They don't want to know our perfect world because in reality, hardly anybody has a perfect world. You see perfect worlds being shared on Instagram as stories, but actually, most of them are not 100% perfect all the time. And it's with those messy stories that our clients connect. It's not the speed that we come up with the answer, it's instead learning through our adventures. And the ladies that I work with, many of them have told me it's been like a hurricane that they are living in at the moment. And it could be from global news, shifts in the business, from AI. But here's what I've learned. You don't need to fight the storm. You can step into the eye of the storm because that's where the calmness lies, where the clarity is, and where your why is waiting. AI, if you're using it, hasn't had your doubts, your detours, your triumphs. And that's what your customer is craving. It's not craving you to write a perfect blog post. It's not craving you to write a perfect social media post with exactly the right images. It wants to hear from you, from the unique person that's you. And that's the real work. That's where the growth begins. It's not just what AI can do for you. It's who we are as human beings, and that's what the eye of the storm is. It's to take us into that place and to take your clients into that space. We're all waiting for the right moment to happen, but that moment is never going to happen. But it is in that eye of the storm that you will find that peace and contentment. So in that eye of the storm, there's something called your why. And this is the place where it is a quiet space for you to rethink, reevaluate, reset, and breathe, and come back to what your why is for your business. Why are you running this business? Why are you offering what you're offering to the world? Start with your why, come back to that, not about the how or the what that you're doing, but the why. So the why can be the eye of the hurricane, or it can be your North Star. For me, I call it a North Star. So start with using the word why. And for a fun exercise, what you could do is take what you would normally have as your networking speech that you give to people when they ask you what you do. And when you've said it to yourself, ask yourself why you're doing that. And just keep repeating the word why until you get to the reason why you're actually doing it and come back to that space. I want you to realize that your brain is wired to protect you. It loves the familiar and it fears the unknown. So when you're facing change, as many of us are at the moment, it probably whispers to you, stay safe, don't take a risk, you're not ready yet. And your brain seeks a place your brain speaks at a place of fear. It speaks at a place of lack or worry. And that's what your brain has been created to do, to stop you from jumping in front of that lion. It's your brain has been created to protect you. And yet when your brain says you can't, it's speaking to who you've been, not to who you could become. So your successes and your failures don't determine your worthiness. You determine your worthiness. And as this slide says, I love this quote, who you are today is not your potential. Who you are today is just a point of reference. And you're going to move forward today, hopefully through this session, to get to the next stage of where you want to be with your business. So I'm going to hand over next to Tracy, who will cover the who part of who you are here to serve. And she's going to be covering meet your match. Your business isn't for everyone, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to stop sharing and give the slides to Tracy.
Thanks, Ali. I'm going to try and get over my tech fear.
Well, I just had a huge tech fear, as you know, so.
Here we go, look. Okay.
Perfect.
Everyone can see that fine and dandy.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about clients, and Ali's just mentioned all the noise out there, the hustle, the bustle. And I know when we first go into business or whatever stage our business is at, we want clients. We've got bills to pay. You know, we've got financial constraints on us as we run our business. But I just want to tell you, and it's my passion to tell you, that working with the ideal client is far, far easier than working with a bad fit client. Last year, at the end of last year, I found myself working with a client, a well-paying client, who absolutely drained my energy, zapped my confidence, and actually took the Michael, if you'll pardon the very, correct expression there. So I started 2025 with an intentional and a fresh approach to only work with clients who valued what I could bring to their business. And when you're working with people like that who appreciate the power of a strategic partner, life is joyful. You're looking at profit and joy. So I would urge you to think as we go along, if you market to everyone, you market to no one, and you bring yourself a lot of headaches. Okay, your ideal client. Now, we've got to figure them out before we're going to decide how to attract them. And I've specifically used that word attract because we don't want to have to beg for people to work with us. We don't want to have to hustle and to chase because our energy is really precious. So sometimes, or a lot of the time, you tend to find that your ideal client is potentially a younger version of you. So yeah, there I am, starting out my first coaching business nearly 10 years ago, looking out for a copywriter, blah, 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 blah. So if you're struggling, think back to a younger version of you and what they need to know and what you can get from them when you're summing up an ideal client. So crucial, we need clients. There's no denying that. No clients, no business. And the really magical process I'm just really excited to take you through. And I don't say that in terms of, oh, I'm super excited or anything like that. You know, I really love sharing this process with you because it will help you to connect and it will help you to build a relationship rather than a financial transaction of a client. you've got that client there with you and you'll want to keep them there. So great, I hear you say. Let's figure them out. Is it as easy as scoffing a whole big bar of Cadbury's chocolate when you're rushing to meet a deadline? No, I cannot promise you that. But the payback is great. And I just want to dwell very briefly on another phrase I'm hearing a lot lately, and it's the evolving client. And I am a living, breathing example of this. When you build a relationship with a client, that client, as their business evolves, so your client evolves. So it's worthwhile putting in the time and the effort to figure out who they are and what they need to know from you so that they're happy and say yes to working with you. A couple of quick statistics for you. Retaining customers costs 5 times less than acquiring new ones. Hang on in there and work with those ideal clients. Loyal customers spend 31 times more than new customers. Big tick, work on those ideal clients. So when you get to know them on a really deep level, you use that information in your marketing copy, on your website, wherever else you've got words that you need to use to win clients. So let's just have a little look about why your messaging matters. It's fairly straightforward. How many times have you been on I hate the word discovery call, but that's what they're called, a discovery call, and you think at the end of that, oh, wow, that was an absolute waste of time. With all the best will in the world, that was a waste of time. We are talking Japanese and French. They're asking you questions. If you use your website as your second most precious resource to you, to actually spell out who you work with and just as importantly, who you don't work with, what you offer in great detail and things like that, then your website is going to save you a heck of a lot of time. So just going through there, as I said to you, so you can stop chasing clients and attract them. So you're not begging. And so that your website copy, your content, and so importantly, your sales pages do all the heavy lifting. So if you're going into a launch, the last thing you want is to have to spend time qualifying and clarifying clients with all the energy that is needed in the launch of a new service or an evergreen program, things like that. So in a nutshell, your messaging matters because your words will connect and your services will sell with minimum effort and maximum impact to your business. So what happens when you don't work with ideal clients and you can't help everyone and it's not a reflection of your skill set? The biggest thing for me here when I experienced this was how, and I come back to the word energy, was taken up. Way too much of my time was taken up trying to fight fire, sort out problems, things that actually didn't align with how I work. So I speak from real experience here. When you serve the right type of clients, they'll be happy, they're happy, you're happy. For every wrong client you turn away, you leave the door open for the right people to walk in. And finally, it makes life so much less stressful when you're dealing with nice people that appreciate you. And so we're finding these clients. How are we going to actually start to even think about them? Client avatars are out there in the marketing workspace where you'll download a form, they'll ask you all sorts of questions from age, cars they drive, houses they live in, how many bedrooms, what's the coffee order. You know what? I'm exaggerating ever so slightly here, but I get why they exist and I don't like them for the reasons you can see there. And mainly it's because these are fictitious, these are projects of our imagination. Our ideal client doesn't live in our heads. They're real breathing, thinking, striving, hurting, wanting, aspiring people. And I'd just like to give you a little example here. I do work in the wellness space. So let's say we've got a lady here, she's menopausal. She's dealing with burnout. She's tired. She's got mental overload, hormonal shifts. And there's a sense there that actually, you know what, she's really not well at all. Now, this midlife lady could be a woman with a senior role in an office and a teenager at home. Dig deep. She could be working part-time, managing the home and caring for elderly parents. She could be self-employed and running a business she loves, but stretched to the hilt with difficult clients. Or she's with grown-up kids and thought that this phase in life would be easier. Or she looks fine on the outside, but she's quietly falling apart on the inside. So if your client avatar was menopausal woman, midlife, say she's tired, no energy, blah, 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 you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different scenarios. So I absolutely urge you to dig deep and deep and deeper still. As Ali said, your why, as to why these clients need to hear from you. Okay, let's get to the real heart of the matter and map out our messaging. What do these clients need to know? Or what do you need to know to write better performing copy to move them to take the next yes? Now, the next yes, it might be to sign up for a webinar or any other kind of lead magnet. It might be to book a call. When we're talking about the next yes, it's a series of micro steps that we have to nurture that client with the messaging. And I know Remy's going to come on to stages of awareness later on. So we're nurturing them through tiny micro steps to get them to the end result, which is to work with us. Now, I'm going to talk to you about research, and it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, it's not rock and roll lifestyle. For some strange reason, the creative in me absolutely adores research because the psychology behind it is so stimulating. And I'll just gently talk you through the process of the voice of customer research that any good copywriter worth her salt will do for you. Or if I walk you through today, you can go away and do yourself for your own business. We have to get into our customers' heads as if we've lived in their skin and walked 10 miles in their really hurting shoes. And we need to paint a picture of our customers' lives. We're taking them from struggle to success, from before they found you to during working with you, and after that is the result. So we're looking for information for their struggle or their pain point, their fix or their desire, any hesitations or objections or myths they might believe in about your industry. Awareness level, over to Remy. What sets you apart and what does success look like to them? So let's talk about methods of research. And you can look at this and think, God, there's a hell of a lot there. There are, but I would certainly advise you in your businesses not to try to do all of these things. Face-to-face interviews is time consuming, but the nuggets of gold in there are incredible. You can do phone interviews, you can do surveys by email. That's a fairly less labor intensive. Set up Google Forms. Look into your testimonials and your clients' testimonials. Pull out things like their wins, their pain points, myths and objections, things like that. Blog comments, social media is a great place to look at. Honestly, I hang out loads in Reddit and Quora. The stuff I get there is incredible. And review mining. For anyone that doesn't know what review mining is, it's going through things like books on Amazon, where you can find some really, really amazing stuff. And on that note, if you don't have clients, or you haven't had clients, or you don't feel you can approach them for any reason whatsoever, I just want to spend a couple of minutes on no clients, here's how. This is review mining. Some of you may have heard me talk about Joanna Wiebe. She's possibly one of the highest paid female copywriters in the world. And she established Copy Hackers many, many years ago. She was looking to revamp the homepage for a rehab centre. And because of the nature of the subject, of course, it would be hard to go out there and interview clients, past and present. So she looked at over 500 reviews on Amazon. She chose 6 books. She looked at over 500 reviews, and she came up with the headline, "If you think you need rehab, you do." Now, that headline took the place of a different headline. There was a control headline, which was in the first page, and it said, "Your addiction ends here." When Joanna changed that headline to "If you think you need rehab, you do," it brought in 400% more clicks than it did before, than the other headline. And just as importantly, the click-through rate to the next page went up 20%. Now, that's a hell of a lot on a sales page. So anybody, that launches courses, has sales pages, anything like that, when you think of your headlines and what they've got to do, you can see now why to actually do test those headlines sort of after a launch, that kind of thing, is really, really important. So, sorry, I don't know how I jumped there, but anyway, there we go. Useful tools for surveys and interviews. If you're going to do face-to-face, then you're going to need a calendar booking tool, Calendly or TidyCal. Obviously, something like Zoom for hosting, and please make sure you remember to press the record button. Survey forms, a transcription tool. I actually love TurboScribe, it's free. Rev.com is also very reasonable. And something I've avoided all of my life until now, spreadsheets. And I kid you not. But before we move on to spreadsheets, you've got to ask questions to be able to dig deep to find out what your ideal client thinks, sees, hears, does, fears, all the rest of it. I can't actually give you a list of questions to take away because you need to decide on the goal of your survey. It might be for writing a sales page for a high-end product because, like Joanna, the current sales page hadn't been performing in the last round. Or, as I've been doing lately, to discover what messages your readers need to hear to move them to the next micro action and to say yes, to actually sign up, work with you. So a quick look there on the right-hand side about the questions. Biggest thing is, don't make people think too hard. They're giving up their time during the day to help you to get your copy, really so much better. And I always like to offer a thank you for clients who are willing to do face-to-face interviews. But thank goodness I know everybody's going to get this afterwards. So if anything that I've missed out here, it's there. Now, these dreaded spreadsheets, you need to be able to analyze all your research. And as much as I'm galloping through it here, it's actually very, very, very straightforward. And I put that picture there because you just might need a few of those mocktails to get you through all the analysis. But you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got your 6 areas that you're looking for information for. Create a separate page for each area, as in use a different page of the spreadsheet for every single heading. You'll notice I've included a box where add the link to where you got that from, just in case you want to go back to it or check it out some more, that kind of thing. Now I'll show you the sort of thing you're going to be picking out. So I've done a couple of big projects lately. And when I did an interview, one of the struggles was, and this was the feedback from face-to-face interviews, the lady couldn't see how life was going to change. Life was such a struggle. Wanted to feel comfortable in her own skin. One of the things, interestingly, was she's completely overwhelmed with health information right now. So if she was looking, why would the coach be different? What can we build into that coach's copy to set them apart, the differentiators? And you know what she did? She'd got success with what she was doing with working with this coach. She'd already noticed increased energy and less pain after some weight loss and exercise, and she was a much brighter lady. She was enjoying life much, much more. Again, I apologise for galloping through. Happy to take any questions or whatever afterwards. You will notice themes going on through all of this research. One of the pain point themes was energy. This lady said her energy levels were through the floor, hormones out of whack. There's a fantastic phrase, sticky phrase. She was bone tired. It was affecting her ability to function. So why bother with these themes? Because your copy, your content, your messaging has to reflect and shape what your ideal customer thinks and feels. Not fluff, not maybes, not well, what ifs, but hey, you know what? This is right to the heart of it. And by grouping voice of customer research into themes, it shows you what's really important. And then I'll just explain how to use what is really important. All that research pays off when it comes to finding sticky copy and how to use it. Now, when I talk about sticky copy, it's the standout emotional phrases that are, you know, they leave AI in the shade. AI can never hope to come up with stuff like this. It's person to person, it's raw and it's human, and it's far more potent than jargon and marketing speak. Another coach I've worked with not so long ago, I interviewed 3 different ladies for her. And this was like, oh, you know, one of these ladies used the phrase, sometimes I need that day to disappear from the world. I had a hard time living. And how awful. I never used to let myself rest at all because I felt so guilty about it. I felt like I was losing myself through the motions of life, but not actually living. I asked permission. Simona is a Costa woman, and that is on her website. So if you can imagine, when you're writing your website copy, it's structured, there's headings, and please remember that people skim read. So if you use this kind of thing as headings, then that keeps people reading. If you're looking for a coach, you're having a hard time, you're feeling really bad, that says this coach understands me. They've done their homework. I do feel like I'm losing myself. I am going through the motions of life and I'm not living. This lady knows what knows what I'm talking about. So I've had to whistle stop through that. You won't just find copy in reviews or interviews. You'll find the messages you need to put on the page, to work with intention, to come right back to where Ali started, to work with intention with your ideal client and to serve them with the intention that you have from the heart and help them to grow their business with strategy. So I hope you found that interesting. I know we've a lot to get through, and happy to take any questions at the end. Thanks, Ali.
Perfect. Thank you, Tracy. So next up we have Kim. And hold on, have I got Kim next or have I got Remy next? One sec. Sorry. Yep, Remy's next. Remy is going to be talking about from stranger to client, navigating the stages of your relationship with potential clients. So Remy, over to you.
Thank you. So just going to share my screen. I hope I can do it. Yes. I hope you can see now my screen. Okay, so let's go directly to it. So what I am going to talk about is the different stages we have in our relationship with potential customers. So the first step is they don't know us. Then they just arrive to your world. The third one is they get curious about your offer, about what you have for them, what is your solution for them. Then they know about your solution and they get interested in buying. And finally, they buy. So this from moving them from the first part where they are totally strangers to the last point where they are, it's not the last point, but it's the last point of this part of the line, is like you need to build trust, you need to showcase your authority, you need to generate credibility so they understand, they see how you are valuable, how your solution is going to help them. And this process, you have different assets in your business to move them from one stage to the other. And I call this a trust bridge. So they are going to move from one stage to the other. And of course, because my specialization is a personal brand story, if you ask me how to build that trust in new audiences, I will invite you to use your personal brand story. So there are three main elements that you sharing your story will provide to the audience, to the people that listen to you or are close to you. The first one is context. They will understand why you are doing the work that you do, why you are working around the topics or around the areas that you are doing so. So they will have more context about who you are and how you are someone trustworthy. It's going to showcase also how you are someone relatable. So it shows connection. There is it provides connection when you share your personal brand story. And finally, it also provides contrast. It showcases what makes you unique, what makes you different, because there are more people offering similar services, similar products of what you do, but there are no one else with your same life path. That's why using your story is a powerful move for your business because it's highlighting what makes us different. As Tracy was saying, one of the things that we need to highlight in our messaging is what makes us different. And I always like to share an idea because a lot of people think that their story might be not relevant and might be not, who will care about their story. I invite you to think about how your story can be that little push that some people need to take action, can be something that inspires them and something that shows that this is possible. That solution, that transformation that you are providing, that's something that is possible for them too. So my invitation is to use your story in your messaging, and I am going to explain exactly in all these stages in which one you can use and how to do so. But first, if you don't know how to choose which stories to share, I created this framework, which is called the 10 Story Connector framework, where instead of looking for one big story, you identify 10 meaningful moments in your journey And each of them is connected to a benefit, to a key factor of what you offer. You don't need 10, but my suggestion is for you to look for moments in your journey that are connected, that are related to specific things, because that way for you will be easier to go and share about that. And you will have a reason why you are doing so, and you will have more clarity on why you share a specific story. And I might share one example of my own. You can go to my website and there are more there, but um, I always say that I am passionate about stories. I can say that more people that work around storytelling will do the same, will say something similar, but I always like to share this story related to the first time that a public library opened in my neighborhood. I was super excited, and I was just one of the first people that went and take the library card. So that feeling of, oh, I will have all these books available, all these stories and their life and the character and all that was super exciting to me. And it's like I remember learning to read. So sharing that moment, sharing about this not anything epic at all. It's just a little story and about a memory of myself. But it's showing, it's like a bridge to talk about that factor of myself. That's something that is important for my future clients to know about myself. So think about yourself in the same way. Think about uh, natural skills that you have. Think about emotions that you try to provide to your clients and the people that work with you, and then go back and think of a specific moment in your journey that you can tie with that. Okay, so let's go now back to where we were in the journey from strangers to clients, and how to use your story connectors or your stories, your personal brand story with potential customers. So let's see specific moments in this journey that we can use our stories. The first step will be when they don't know us. So here, I would suggest you to use your stories when you do some guest appearance. For example, if you go as a guest to a podcast, if you do some public speaking, if you go as a guest speaker to a private community, in any of those scenarios, of course, you can share about your knowledge, about your product or your service, what you offer, but include some storytelling there because that will help to build the trust, especially with people that is the first time that are in contact with us. So we want to show the human part of us, as the previous Ali and Tracy were talking about already, is like we want to showcase what makes us different. And that's a combination of our personality, our background, our like the academic background, but also the different experiences. Something that I love to highlight is how you can use different moments in your journey, even things that are totally unrelated. If you were working, let's say someone was working in corporate and then moved to do some coaching. Even if you have two businesses, because I know that some of you are in that situation, you can use stories from one experience when you are talking about the other thing, because there are certain aspects that will be like a common thread. So you will have experiences, lessons. For example, if there is a natural skill that is valuable for your clients, I'm sure in previous work experiences you were also having that because something natural to you. I will get some examples. I hope we have the time to go that. So second is that when they are just new to your work, so they have maybe learned about you in a podcast appearances or any other guest appearances, and then they go to your work. And when I say content, it's not just social media, it's also newsletter, it's also blog, it's also a podcast. It's any way where you are sharing your messaging, let's say in your own platforms. It's not from someone else's audience, it's your audience. And here can be that your email list and you are sending them messages. This is something interesting also because we don't want to rely 100% on social media because that's like rented land. So when we are talking to the people in our newsletter or in our emails, this is a place where we are owning the data in the sense of we are not depending on an algorithm for that. So in the general sense of content, use your storytelling again to showcase your values, what is makes you different, what is important to you, and also to talk about who is your audience and why it's important for you to work with them. And with those, we want to attract the right client for reason. There are reasons why this is important to us. Let's think about that, and then let's see which stories we can use to highlight that, to illustrate that important and that relationship between those data. The third was they get curious. So they have been seeing our content, and then they want to learn more, and they go to see what kind of solution we have for them. So they go to the sales page. And here, something really important that you can highlight is what makes your offer or your solution different from someone else. Because that might be like other, let's say, if it's a coaching offer service, there could be two people that are offering similar things and can cover similar things. They might have some overlapping. It's really important that you highlight what is your unique approach, how you do things in a different way, even if, let's say, two people, they have learned the same method, they are going through the same steps, but there are something that they are focusing on. There is a way of approaching the work that they do. What is important? This is something that will help people to understand what makes you different. Like, for example, here I just said that I do the personal brand story instead of one big story is 10 moments. This is a different approach to someone else that might be doing something like that. But I will, if we have the time, we can go to an example of maybe in the Q&A, or you can ask me later for more examples. So let's move to the next one. And here they already know our solution, and they go a step further and they are interested in buying. So we might have a sales calls with them. We might send them a proposal or a quotation or something like that. So in these two places, I suggest you to use your stories. For example, let's say we are in a discovery call and someone has an objection, something that you know that always came up in your calls, and they are always usually disappointed where they are not sure about buying or not buying. So because you know that, you will have an answer to reply to that, and you will know which of the benefits of your offer is something that you want to talk about. My suggestion is to use a story as a bridge to talk about that benefit, to talk about that way of addressing the objection. Because for you will be more natural. It's like making for you easier to talk about certain topics. So whenever you know that there are topics that is a bit, maybe you are not sure how to introduce the topic, use the storytelling for that. Think about the story, and doesn't need to be a big thing, can be a small moment, but make for yourself easier to talk about that. The same with the proposals. In the proposal, we might send a quotation, but here I will invite you to highlight first the outcome that they are going to get, like the transformation, and also what is like the reasons why to work with you. There again, if you can add, even sometimes it's just a line or a sentence, doesn't need to be a big thing, but mentioning something that is maybe something that you have already talked to them in previous conversation, or maybe in your sales page is already, but something that we need to do is repeat the messages that are important. So go with that. You can repeat the message because it's important. We can do it different in ways, different angles, but don't be afraid of sharing the same message again. And probably if you have been in any of my other presentation or see my content, there are stories that I am sharing today that you have heard before. And it's okay, because we need to share the ideas, because there are people new that they haven't, and because there are people that they have listened before, but it's okay. It's just a way to reinforce. Oh yeah, I remember when she told this. So it's okay. The third part that I am highlighting here, a specific moment when you can use your stories, and this is something that I want to highlight because it's like it's so important. I know that for some people that might be not the case, but in general, it's important for us to receive follow-up messages when we have, let's say, we have been as a consumer in a sales call, or they have sent us a proposal, and sometimes life get busy and we don't have we forget, even if it's something that is interesting for us. So please send follow-up messages. Just can be short, just, hey, I send you the proposal. Have you have the chance to check it? If you have any question, just let me know. And there you can add a little note around a story. But keep it short, doesn't need to be super complicated, but please send a follow-up message as a way for them to remember of, oh yeah, this was here, I need to go back to it. Or maybe say it's not the time or whatever, but it's a way to help them to remember. And then finally, when they bow, we go to the onboard. It's not that this finished. As Tracy was saying, whenever someone is a client, we want them to convert into loyal clients. So you can use your storytelling even when they are clients, for example, in the onboarding process, because you can use this storytelling, for example, as a way to create a safe space, because you are sharing vulnerability, and then they can see how this is a safe space for them to do the same, or to make the process like enhance the human connection in the process. Let's say you are providing a product. You can do in the way that you are delivering, you can include your stories as a way to highlight how this is something special, is made from me, or is something that I create or I put for you together. So include storytelling as a way to make more memorable your brand and the connection that they have with you. Okay? So I don't know how we are the time.
I think we probably need to move on, Remy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it's
need, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I am happy to share example. Just whenever whoever wants it, I can share it for them. And then also in the folder there is an invitation for whoever wants a mini audit. Feel free to reach out.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Sorry, we had to move on.
Yeah, of course.
So I hope you can see we're joining up the dots here. And next we're going to have Kim Morrison talking about her calm marketing. She's come up with an acronym. We're using the word calm, and how to attract clients without being online 24/7. So Kim, over to you.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, right. I've developed this calm way of approaching it. For those of you who don't know me, I support therapists and service providers and small business owners and coaches to actually find clients, can't speak, usually local clients, because there are loads of people telling you have to be online and, to create a course and everything else. But actually, most people I deal with really want to find some local clients. So that's what I specialize in trying to help people find those local clients. And it's really useful when you do this. I just need to get rid of my Zoom. Thank you. Then I can actually see my notes. At one point, I did consider retraining as a therapist myself for more meaningful work. I'd come out of a corporate background and I felt it was just like I'd had enough of corporate life and just needed a break from it. But I realized in the end, once I started to try and build my business, is that I could actually help people by helping them find clients, because I knew how to do that. Although I have to say, it took me a while to actually take my own advice and get on with it, but we all have this learning curve. But so now I see myself as your marketing therapist, providing a calm, clarity, and confidence in your client journey. So it's great to be on this panel, and I want to go through some information with you. And I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, because I know we're under time pressure. So one thing is, let's start by talking about the big myth that the only way to be successful is that you have to be online all the time, posting constantly, responding to every message, chasing the next trend, all the bright, shiny objects. But 72% of small business owners say they're burnt out. And even in the questions that we actually had and your comments, you were making similar comments about this. And more screen time doesn't always equal more clients. It just means more noise. The truth is, you don't need to do more, but you need to do what works. You don't have to always be on. Marketing should support your well-being and not sabotage it. So that's why I came up with the CALM method. So CALM is, as Ali said, an acronym. So the C is for consistent visibility offline, automated online presence, so automating it. And I know that Remy just mentioned email lists, and they are really important. And we did notice that some people on our feedback had said they didn't have one. You don't own your social media platform. It could be taken away at any time. So it's very important to have an email list. And that's part of what I help people with, is setting up that automated online presence, leveraging local connections, which Diane is going to talk about later. So I'm not going to go into that. And also a mindset shift, which I know Nella's going to talk about, because that's important, because you have to be able to see yourself as that dreaded word, marketer. And I know some people think it's awful, and I've actually had clients who just hate the marketing word, but it is really important. But I created this because I saw too many talented women giving up, not because they weren't good at what they do, but because they felt that the marketing part of their business had become a full-time job. So today I'm just going to focus on a few high-impact strategies that you can do under the A, the automated online presence, and the C, consistent visibility. So CALM is a balanced approach for sustainable marketing, and each part supports you in showing up meaningfully in your business without the overwhelm, which is what we can all suffer from. So I see a Google Business Profile as, sorry, I just need to change this slightly, because I've just got this very irritating Zoom covering up my notes. So I see a Google Business Profile, which many of you don't necessarily have, as your digital front door. But think about it. How many of you have Googled massage near me, or dog groomer in Malaga, or wherever you happen to live? Well, that's what your ideal client is doing too. They're Googling, or whatever search engine they choose, but it's usually dominated by Google. And a Google Business Profile helps you show up in searches. It gives social proof through reviews, because you can ask people to leave reviews on it. And it doesn't require you to be on social media 24/7, but you can actually post on it like the same way you would on a social media platform. So you can put a post with a message on, which a lot of people just don't do. And it takes about an hour to set up, and you just need 15 minutes a month to keep it fresh, which is you can add an update, a photo, or reply to a review. And this is pretty low effort with huge visibility potential when you consider how many people are looking through Google, and they can find you very easily. And I do have a document that can help you if you do need to set up your Google Business Profile. Now let's talk about the social media piece, because yes, it does still matter, but not in the way most people most of us have been told to think about it. You don't have to post every day. What you do need is a system. 2 to 3 times a week is plenty, as long as you get the message right, which goes back to Tracy's point on messaging and Remy on letting people get to know you. If you're doing a big launch or promotion, I would recommend once a day, but you shouldn't need that all the time. And what I recommend is that you pick one day a month to plan your content and use a scheduling tool like Canva. I actually am a Canva ambassador, a Meta Business Suite, or Later, or any of the other tools that you can actually get hold of, and then set it up and forget about it. And you can pre-schedule posts that share a tip, feature a client story or client success, client win or testimonial. You could ask a question because that gets engagement, and getting engagement on your post is really important. And you could tell your story, as Remy has already covered. And this builds connection without draining you. So you need to batch and schedule for your own sanity. I've also shared a free download. Ali's got an area. I'm not sure how you all access it. I know how I accessed it, but I'm sure she'll be telling us to help you with ideas for social media posts. And you can brainstorm these on a piece of paper, or you can put them in your favorite AI tool. There's some prompts just to help you think about what you can post, because one of the things that I find that people are always asking me is what and when to post. And as I said, 2 to 3 times a day, and just look at your analytics to see when most of your ideal clients, going back to Tracy's point, are actually online. So because of the way the algorithms do work, it's quite easy. If you decide you're going to put all your posts out at 8 o'clock in the morning, but your clients don't go on until 8 o'clock at night, they're very likely to never see what you posted. So do think about that and check. And then this is, of course, where the Canva bit comes in. And I love Canva. As I said, I'm biased. I'm an official Canva ambassador. But you don't need to be a designer to actually use Canva to create some interesting posts and make them more visual. You can use the templates and change them to your colors, add your logo and message. And the Canva brand kit is brilliant for that. Although the limited version is free, so you really do ideally need a pro or a Teams account, depending if you have a team, but a pro account will cover it as well. And what that lets you do is put in all your colors, your logos, you can add photos, you can choose the font style that you want, and you can have all this at your fingertips. So it's very easy to use Canva that way. Plus, of course, if you do have a pro account, you can actually schedule from Canva as well. So you don't have to pay for yet another platform to actually schedule your posts. You can do that from within Canva. So it's really great if you want to do that. But you only need a handful of branded posts repeated in different formats, and your life will just get easier. And also repurpose your posts. If you're blogging on your website, or if you're writing a newsletter, repurpose that information into a post. Make it into 3 stories, or make it into different formats at different times and vary it. I'm a great believer in repurposing, so use your content several times over, so you don't have to constantly be trying to think about what you need to post. And as I said, my absolute tip is Canva Pro or Teams equals time saved and a full brand kit and much more choice of images, so you won't look like everybody else, which is always useful too. And the next thing that I recommend everybody does is leverage local connections. Now, I know that Dan's going to talk about networking, so I'm not going to do that, but that is very important. But other ideas that I have that some of my clients have actually implemented and done incredibly well with is co-hosting events. So they find someone who's in a similar business, but not necessarily competitive with them, and they host an event together. And if you're thinking, I'm not a tech person and I'd rather talk to someone face to face, that's amazing. Then using local connections really helps. And of course, Coastal Women is brilliant for that. So co-host the event with a complementary business, swap flyers with a nearby business, so you actually exchange, share each other's posts online. And I know Ali's running something in one of her groups where she's actually running a system where people will share and comment on posts, because it really helps trigger the algorithm and shows your posts to more people. It also warms up your audience and builds trust. One of the things I always recommend for social media as well, so going back slightly to social media, is that before you put your post up, comment or like other people's posts, and that just warms up the algorithm for you before you actually put your post out. But one good local partnership can fill your calendar with warm, trusted referrals. Because you need to know how many clients you need, and it's never as many as you really think. So you can actually make yourself overwhelmed by overthinking this. So marketing can feel good. Let's recap. I've kept this very short because I thought we only had like 10 minutes each. So I've kept this set back. I'm happy to answer any questions on social media, Canva, marketing, whatever you want to do in the Q&A. Set up your Google business profile. It's free and it's really powerful. And it gives you that visibility. and so that's the C part of calm, the consistent online visibility. Use Canva and a scheduler to batch your content monthly. So that's your automatic. Don't underestimate local collaboration. It's marketing with heart. And this is all, marketing doesn't have to drain you. It can be light and simple and aligned when you keep it calm. Because these strategies are high impact, but they're high effort too. So just don't think you have to be there on time. I mean, I've had a lot of personal issues at the beginning of this year with my mother being very ill and my husband being ill. And so I had to take a real break. But as I've gradually come back, because I had laid a firm platform and groundwork of what I'd done before, it didn't take me long to rebuild my connections and for people to come back and comment on my posts. So just do those things regularly and repeatedly, and you will find it a lot easier. The thing you have to remember, and this is what I really would say to you, if you take nothing else away from my presentation today, let it be this. Your people are out there. They're already searching for someone like you who can do what you do because they know they need you. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to show up where it matters. And in a way that feels good to you, because you being authentically you will make it much easier to relate to people and make it easy for them to find you. So just be visible. And one of the things I always say, because I know people loathe the whole thing about marketing. You know, when you say you're a marketer, it's like, oh God, really? But marketing is simply sharing your passion, but share it thoughtfully and authentically. It's just, you went into your business because you felt passionate about it and you felt you could make a difference to people. So marketing yourself is letting people know what you do so they can come and use your services. And just to finish, I've just given you some booklets, some QR codes that if you'd like to scan, you can either get a copy of my ebook, which is The Secret to Attracting Local Clients Consistently. And the other one is to join my free Facebook community, which is Marketing Made Simple. So if anybody wants to scan those and come and join, I'd love to see you in either of them. Again, I took a break from Marketing Made Simple, my Facebook group, but I'm getting back into that now and starting to post and do some Facebook Lives with tips of how to improve your marketing and share more information about how you can grow your business. So I hope that helps. That's all I have. And so I'll hand back to Ali.
Thanks very much, Kim. As Kim mentioned, we have actually created a Google area where Google Docs, and I'll put that into the chat so you can download the presentations and things that the ladies have posted up there. So you're very welcome to download them to your Google Drive. Next, we have Diana Friedman. Diana's going to be rethinking networking. Can we learn to enjoy it? Let's hope so. Diana, over to you.
Thanks, Ali. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, are we good? Yep.
Yep.
Great. Okay. So thanks, Ali, and thanks, Kim. That was a great finish, which is exactly this, very similar to what I'm going to talk about, but talking a little bit more specifically about networking instead of marketing, but obviously there's a lot of overlap between those two things. And I'm not an expert networker. I'm just going to share some things that I've learned over the last couple of years as my business has grown really fast. So sometimes when we talk about networking, people go, we don't like it. And so I wanted to start by just asking that question of why do we dislike it so much anyway? So the other day, this popped up, a slide like this in my inbox, and I thought, oh, yeah. I remember when I was in graduate school and they would tell us, go to a conference and network. And it meant, talking to people you don't know, circulating, and just trying to kind of show off who you are a little bit. So I started thinking about that. Why do I now enjoy networking so much? And so that's what I'm going to talk about. So the Harvard Business Review actually had a fantastic article talking about this. And it gave this list of like why we dislike networking. So I thought I would go through these just quickly because it may not be something that we're even aware of. It may just be we hear the word network and kind of like what Kim was saying, we hear the word marketing and we go, ugh. So a couple of things. It can make us feel uncomfortable, right? Like it's something that we need to do. For some people, it can kind of feel like brown nosing. It's exploitive. It's inauthentic. We are going to sell our services and have to put this side of ourselves forward that we don't like. And I think for introverts in particular, it can be really difficult. And I'm talking about networking in person. I'm not going to focus on online networking on this talk at all. It's really just in person for this. So my question is how can we rethink this? And so that we can kind of, as Kim's last comment, which was however she just said that, marketing can feel good. And I might say the same thing, that we can think about networking that way also. So the first thing is to just shift your mindset away a little bit from this idea that it is a chore, right? It's something that we do, it's part of our business, but it's connected to why we're doing it. If we can think about networking as being about relationships and not sales, we think about it as a conversation that we're having with somebody, some opportunity for discovery and learning about other people as well. And the same as I think we're hearing a lot on social media, at least in my field, we do, that it is not the number of likes and interactions that you get, but the value and the depth of them, which can make that much more meaningful for you when you are networking or in conversation with somebody. So I came up with a list of a couple of attributes that I feel have been particularly helpful to me. So there's authenticity, integrity, and vulnerability. And I see the three of these as kind of going together. And then spontaneity is something that I've just spontaneously come across myself. And then professionalism, which I think we all know that when we are networking, we have to be professional, but I just had a couple of thoughts about that. So I'm going to go through these now. Okay. Oh, and before I do that, just a little bit about what I do, just so some of the stories I give you will make sense in that context. I have been a writer and an editor for many, many years, my entire adult life, freelancing, but I've also held jobs at the university. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I went completely freelance. And as part of that, I started running these writing retreats here in northern Spain. And they've just kind of taken off. I do them in the States and I do them here, and they all sell out all the time. And I'm not really sure why, but it's fantastic. So we have writing retreats where we bring writers in to really strengthen their work and have time to focus on their fiction or creative nonfiction and build community with one another. I'm also a writing coach. So if people have a project that they need help with, it's not necessarily just editing, but also accountability and helping them develop outlines or just looking at submissions every couple of weeks, that sort of thing. And then I have the retreats. And so as somebody was saying before, we wind up having all these businesses, and I thought at some point these all need to come into one structure. So I came up with this idea of the name for Kind Right Studio, and this is the first time I've been public with it. So we are just getting ready to talk about it and launch it. And my colleague Val Burton is on the call as well. And the idea is we are now a full service writing studio for editing services from gestation to publication. So we help writers all the way from an idea all the way to if they want help with submitting. And then we have the writing retreats and coaching as well. Okay. So when we think about networking, when I think about networking with my business, it's how do I bring in new clients? But it's also thinking a little bit about once clients are part of our circle, how do we keep them in the circle? Because that's networking too, right? Is maintaining those connections. And so thanks to Ali, I now have a Patreon community, which is a site where people can join as members. And it's nothing fancy. They pay $5 a month and they get a prompt once a week, a writing prompt. And then I'm online once a month where they can just come on and ask me anything. So that's one place. And then for every retreat we have a WhatsApp chat group. And I really encourage people to keep in touch with those groups. And they still do every so often. One from 2022 will pop up because somebody has published something or they want to share something, or somebody who just updated her blog. And so it's lovely to see these people who we bring together at the retreats keep in touch with one another. And then as Kim mentioned, I would talk a little bit about leveraging local connections and that sort of thing. So I will get to that as well. So authenticity, and I think most of what I'm talking about will be pretty straightforward, and it's already been touched on quite a bit in various ways through everybody else who has gone before me. But when I think about being in conversation with people, what I find is authenticity is really critical. So who am I? What do I believe? Why do I do this work? And how do I convey it? And that's just coming to the table as I am. If you see me in Costa Women, you'll know that I'm probably the worst dressed woman in this entire organization. I never have makeup on half the time. My hair is not done. Usually when I teach, I'm a little bit more put together. But that's just how I am. It's just not that important to me. And that's how I present myself. I grew up in a house of writers, so I've been around writing my whole life. And when people ask me about that, I will tell them here were the great parts and here were the hard parts. So again, it's what Remy talked about and has been discussed. We want to share anything that's an imperfection. So just really being completely true to yourself, like who you are. The second thing that I found, particularly like in the group work, but also in the coaching, is integrity. Okay. So integrity is, to me, it's about behavior, right? So we want to be completely truthful about what it is we do and what we offer. And if we say we're going to do something, we do it. And if we can't, we own it. I would not feel good promising somebody something that I can't deliver on. I have not taken clients sometimes because I know that I can't help them. There are a few clients I've taken who were a bad match. I wish I'd had Tracy's talk before that. And I paid the price for it. It was really uncomfortable. I wound up giving her all her money back because I knew she was not a good match and she just made my life difficult. And I was happy when she quit. But it was partly my not trusting myself, right? To say, okay, you don't need this. You don't need to take on a client. So to just really think about always having integrity. And then vulnerability. This is one that's come to me fairly recently. And Ali talked about this a little bit, just about talking about our imperfections. And I might think about it as vulnerability as well. So one of the retreats I run is called the Motherload Retreat, and it's mastering the art of writing about our mothers. And so it's for women who are writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or poetry, and they're really struggling to get to the place they need to get on the page to write about their moms because the relationship is so complicated and they're kind of torn up through all of it and it's impeding the writing. So obviously this was going to be a very intense retreat. We brought a lot of tissues to this retreat, boxes of tissues. And as I was thinking about it, I thought, I cannot run this retreat really without talking about myself. Now, when I approach a new writer or a new client, potential client in terms of marketing, my mindset has always been people want to write because they want to be seen. They want to be heard. Like they don't want to know about me, like once we're in that part of the funnel. But what I found at the Motherload retreat was that actually they did, that it was impossible to actually run this retreat without standing up and saying, here's why I want to run this retreat. It was partly because I had worked with a lot of women writers who just could not, they just couldn't bring their mother to the page without saying, I still hate her, or it was terrible, or whatever it is, and it was impeding the writing, but also without talking about my own relationship with my own mother and how troubled that was and how difficult that was for me. And that was really scary for me, but it actually did wonders because a couple of people said to me, I want to work with you after the retreat. And I think it helped people forge a connection to me. So thinking about, particularly if you're in a service kind of service offering, where are those places where you can feel okay making yourself vulnerable? Okay, so spontaneity. This was kind of fun. So the retreats I run in the United States, one is at a place called Zigbone Farm Retreat Center, and it's this beautiful farm, and it's run by a friend of mine, and we do a couple of those every winter and spring, and we do those in April. And then this Motherload retreat I did, I think 2 weeks later, and it was in Pennsylvania. So if anybody's from the US or the geography, you'll know these two states are right next to each other. So these two retreats were about 4 hours apart. And we didn't have any overlap, but a lot of the people who came were from the Washington, D.C. area, which is where I live. And so I had these two retreats back to back, and these fantastic women always come to the retreats. And afterwards, I feel this sense of like, I'm exhausted, but I'm going to miss everybody so much. So I got back home and I was thinking, I really want to go to the Word Museum. It's this fantastic new museum in Washington that shows us all about the history of English. So it's like crack for a writer. It's manna for a writer. And I thought, who do I want to go with? And I thought, oh, well, I just spent time with all these women who were from the DC area. So I messaged them all and I said, who wants to go to this with me? And a couple of people responded and said, I'd love to, but I can't. But 4 people said yes. And 2 were from one retreat and 2 were from the other retreat. And it was really fun. We cross-talked, we looked at everything, they got to know each other a little bit. And at the very end, I heard the Zigbone people say, I really want to go to the Motherlode retreat. And then the Motherlode retreat people were saying, I really want to go to your Zigbone retreat. And that was not my intention at all. But I thought when you kind of like toss yourself out in the universe, sometimes good things happen. And you cannot worry about, for example, if I've been worried about, oh, nobody's going to show up, it wouldn't matter because nobody would know if nobody showed up. Everybody would just say no, and I'd go by myself and have a good time. So that was really rewarding just to see that, I could nurture those connections, and they really enjoyed speaking to one another, which was really fun as well. Okay, and then just the last thing I want to touch on is just professionalism. I've sometimes worked with people and they can't remember if I've paid them or, they lose track of things. And so I always try to be super organized when you're in that, kind of funnel of bringing somebody in, like you look up the emails, all of that, presentation of your work and yourself. And the other thing I found is that when those emails come in, somebody said to me, every email response you make is 1/3 marketing, or we could say 1/3 networking. So when I get an inquiry, I always try to respond within the same day, quickly, kindly, no matter if what they're asking me is already all over my website. And I will always try to get that question in. So what are you writing? What are you working on? I'm just curious, just to kind of start the conversation. And that has netted me quite a few clients. I had one woman who was trying to decide between mine and another retreat in Spain. And she asked me, do you think I'm a good match? She was from London. She was a published author. So I told her exactly what I thought we could do and where I thought maybe she might be a little too sophisticated for the group, but what I was willing to do with her. And she chose us and told me that it was because I sent her a really honest email. So that's just another way that's been really helpful to me to think about networking and where the value of my time is in terms of how I'm thinking about clients. Okay, so that's all bringing people in. And then I mentioned I would talk about the follow-up. So the Patreon community, for example, I have one woman who came to the retreat last summer. She shows up almost every month on Patreon to work on her book with me for $5 a month, because that's all I charge for the prompts. But now she wants to come back to the retreat and she wants me to edit her chapters. So sometimes just having this way of staying in touch, particularly when we're doing something international, and this was Ali's idea, and it was a fantastic idea. I mentioned the group chat messages. Now we're starting to do more local stuff. It's a little bit tricky because I'm running retreats in different places geographically, but we have a bulk of people who are from the Washington area. And at our last retreat, we did a writing prompt, and the results that came out were so fantastic. We were like, we have to publish these. These are so good. So we decided to do a little chat book. They're just flash fiction pieces of maybe 1,000 words each. And one of the attendees owns a bookstore. And she said, well, we'll hold the launch at my bookstore. And somebody said, I'll help do the self-publishing. And we just sort of spontaneously decided to do this event. And then I was thinking, well, what is the purpose of this event? Like, it's to showcase the retreat, it's to showcase the writers, but why don't we have everybody just donate their work and we will do it as a fundraiser? So in October, we're going to have this fundraiser in Alexandria, which is near Washington, at this bookstore to raise money for scholarships for people who can't afford to come to the retreat. So I feel like it's a really nice thing that we're doing. We're bringing more people in, we're raising money, but it's also helping to establish who the community is in the Washington, D.C. area. And then I think Kim talked about this also, but just sharing the wealth, like connect clients to other resources, be helpful, just be there for them when you can. Sometimes I'm too busy, so I will send somebody to somebody else. Sometimes somebody is not a good fit for me, and I'm very happy, like, you can just try this person. I think she will be better with your work than I can be. So, and I think so just to sum up, the way I think about this is when I'm talking with people or somewhere in that funnel, which I have to go back and look at, that was so helpful. But I'm constantly focusing on what I can do for others, not so much what I want from them. Like, that's to me what the networking is like, what can I do for you? What are you looking for? And how can I be there for you? bringing your best authentic self forward. Again, we've heard this already today, but this is really what I think we are selling. And have fun. Like Kim said, be joyful about your work. It's really contagious. At the retreats, sometimes we get somebody who's a little anxious or grumpy, but because everybody else is so joyful, that person just like there's no space for them to bring all that stress and anxiety in. So yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully I've changed a few minds about networking. Maybe we dislike it a little bit less. This is who we are and this is where we are. So if it's really hot in the next month or two, this is what it looks like up here in the north of Spain, if anybody's interested. Okay. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Diana. I know quite a lot of ladies have had to hop off, but I would like to finish with Anela because she's going to bring us a meditation, visualization to really ground this event into you so that you can attract the right clients with calm and presence. So, Anela, over to you, please. No, I've lost her. She's still there?
Without camera.
I'm still here. I'm still here. Just problem with the technique, as always, you know. So, hi, I'm Anella, and for you who don't know me, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and I help women and young people here in Costa del Sol with gain the confidence and self-esteem, for example, in schools, in jobs and friendships and whatever their issue is. So let's go over to helping you to find the right clients. I will have a meditation for you. And if you want, you can close your eyes. And if you don't want to close your eyes, that's fine. But just try to sit and be comfortable where you are. So close your eyes if it feels safe and find a quiet place within yourself. A place where you don't have to perform. You don't have to know. You don't have to fix anything. Just be here now. Give yourself permission to let go for a moment. Here you do not have to perform. You don't have to fix anything. You don't need answers. You just have to be immediately with yourself. Breathe calmly through your nose and exhale with a long, soft suck. Feel how your body calms down more with each breath. How the heaviness in your body grows a little as it sinks you a little deeper into yourself. How the peace slows down. How silence begins to spread. Imagine your thoughts descending slowly, like a light feather quietly gliding through the air. There's nothing you have to do. Just be present, here and now. Now imagine that you are in the middle of a hurricane, not in the chaos of the storm, but in the innermost point, in the eye. There's no stress, no rush, no overwhelming. Here's clarity and presence. Here is completely silent. It's not a place you flee to. It's a place you chose to step into, consistently, grounded, calmly, with a strength that feels unwavering. And you feel how, in this particularly quiet point, you can feel yourself most clearly, how you stand in your own energy, without letting yourself be carried away by everything that wishes past you. You feel how your inner core is calm. And that is precisely this tranquility that attracts the right thing. You don't have to shout loud to be heard. You don't have to make yourself smaller to fit in. You are the center of your journey. And this is where you create. Here you stand strong. And from here your real power springs. Now imagine that from this quiet place you start sending signals out into the world. Not noisy, not strained, just calm and honest. A soft pulse that says, here I am. Here's what I can do. And here's who I'm here for. Feel and imagine how your ideal customers are attracted to this clarity. They feel that what your offer feels right. They sense that you are not trying to convince them. You just stand in your truth, and that is enough. You attract because you feel the trust in your body. You grow because you dare to be visible on your own terms. Repeat quietly to yourself, I attract with calm. I'm ready for growth and I trust the process. My customers can feel who I am and they come. Feel the confidence in your body, not as a thought, but as a feeling, an inner certainty. Now, imagine that you are looking out over a landscape in front of you. A vibrant, lush landscape filled with color, movement, and connection. You see paths that leads to new customers, new clients, opportunities that are merging. You see openings where you used to see obstacles. You see new relationships, collaborations, opportunities, timing, attraction, and clarity. Feel it in your body. What it feels like to be part of a network of abundance. Feel how your task is not to pressure, but to allow, to receive, to make room. The world is with you. You are a part of it. There's movement, rhythm, and possibilities. Your task is to be open and clear. Breathe calmly in through your nose again and exhale. Feel how the calm has spread in the body. How the silence of the eye of the hurricane now lives in you. It's not just a picture. It's an inner standpoint you can always return to. You just need to stop, breathe, and remember who you are. Repeat these words as an inner confirmation. I create growth with calm. I attract clients that's right for me. I have value. I make a difference. Now, gently start returning. Move your fingers, your toes. Stretch your body if it feels nice. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Take calm, confidence, and clarity with you. You haven't left the eye of the hurricane. You carry it with you, in you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anela.
You're welcome.
Everybody's calmed down a bit now, I have.
Yeah.
I know we've way overrun, but did anybody have any questions? I'm just quickly scrolling through the chat to see if there's any specific questions before we finish. Did anybody want to have one last quick question? Yep, the replay, I've shared it a couple of times in the chat, but let me share it again. The resources, I will add the replay to the resources file. So that's the resources so far, but I'll add the replay in there later. And everybody that registered for this call actually gets the replay. So we had 50 ladies register, so I'll be sending the replay out to everybody that registered. Muted, Ali? Yeah.
I don't have anything to say other than I really enjoyed this tonight. I thought it was amazing. We've got so much information. We've got like a whole course of how to run our business all in one box. It's been wonderful. And I just want to say to all the ladies that I've listened to, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining. Thank you for staying on for the whole call. As I said, I will share the recording of this in the resources file. You'll all get an email with a link to it. It won't be tonight, but it will be sometime tomorrow. So thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully we'll be doing more of these. If you like this sort of thing, this is what we do in the Business Mastermind, and there's information about the Business Mastermind in the resources part as well. So come and check that out. So thank you, ladies. See you all soon, I hope.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.